2024 has been the best reading year for me since lockdown, and let me tell you why. Hi everyone, my name is Whitney. Welcome back to my channel, and this has been an amazing reading year and I'm very excited about it. And I was thinking about what has been different this year than the past few years, and I have a few things that I have eliminated from my reading life that have really transformed my relationship with the books that I'm reading. The first thing I've eliminated from my reading life this year is Goodreads. And not just Goodreads, but tracking in general. I originally had this goal to get rid of Goodreads and find a different way to track the books that I'm reading. The reason I wanted to get rid of Goodreads is nothing against Goodreads. I think it's a fantastic platform, but for me, I felt like if I saw a book on Goodreads that was rated low, I would automatically have a bias that this is going to be a bad book. Or maybe I didn't like a book at all, and then I would see it had a great rating and think, maybe I'm wrong. Which is ridiculous. My opinion is my opinion, it doesn't matter. So I tried other things. I tried things like Notion and journaling, and none of them were working, so I decided to just scrap it and not track anything. I have not tracked the books I have been reading. It might seem like doing this would make you feel like you don't have a way to track the books that you read, but really for me, what it has done, it has made the books that I really loved, that were going to be lasting books, that really did live rent-free in my brain, those books have kind of pushed to the forefront of new favorites of all time, because I'm not tracking every single thing I read. These first three things I've eliminated all kind of go hand in hand. So the next thing that I completely eliminated from my reading life is rating the books. So I not only don't track the books, but I guess going hand in hand with that, I don't rate them anymore. There are no stars, there's no number system, there's no 2 thumbs up. I either enjoyed a book or I didn't. The reason that this has been so freeing is that when you think about it, when you really sit down and think about the rating system, it's all about comparison. I loved this book this many stars worth. How can this book be a 5-star if this book is a 5-star? Did I like one better than the other one? So when you're rating it, you're really not just looking at this book on its own merits. You're comparing it to how you felt while you read this book as opposed to this book, or how much enjoyment you received from this book as opposed to this book. It's a whole comparison thing that just doesn't need to exist in the reading world. Hi, Editing Whitney here. I just wanted to take a moment to step in and say, these are all my opinions. I am not judging anybody for doing Goodreads or rating or doing any of those things. I see the benefit in all of them. These are just things that have helped me this past year to reconnect with just my love of reading. But if those things work for you, more power to you. Thanks for watching my videos. By not rating books anymore this year, it has made me love books so much more, because I don't feel like after I read it, I have to think, hey, how much did I enjoy that? How likely am I to reread this? How likely am I to recommend this? It doesn't matter. You just enjoyed it because it was a fun time. You're gonna hear piano music in the background. That's just our world. That's just the world I live in. My kids play instruments. The third thing I removed from my reading life that goes hand in hand with the other two is I don't have a reading goal as far as numbers anymore. I do not have a set number of books that I want to read this year. In fact, because I'm not even tracking how many books I've read, I have no idea how many books I've read this year. The very first year that I ever set a goal of how many books I want to read this year was the year of lockdown. It was back in 2020. You might also hear a dog chewing on some toys. The reason that I set the goal that year was because I wanted to get back into reading. And I think setting a number goal for how many books you want to read is a fantastic tool to use to get you either back into reading, or if you just don't feel like you're a reader at all, to start feeling like you are making progress in reading more books. My first goal I ever made was 20 books. I thought this year I'm gonna read 20 books, which felt like a big goal. But once I started reading and finishing more and more books, I realized that that was a very low number. And since then, my goals keep going up until I believe last year it was like 125, which might sound like a lot to some, might sound like not very many to some. This year, I realized I don't need that goal I don't need that tool to help me with my reading life. I feel like I have that set foundation of wanting to read books constantly, that I no longer need to set a goal to kind of pace myself to make sure that I am reading books. My next thing that I eliminated was not buying into the hype of books. I love hype. I love being a fangirl of things. I love really getting into stuff, and I love seeing other people that are really, really invested in things. That's one of my favorite things about BookTube, is watching people fall in love with books and just gush over them. But the thing is, a lot of times somebody can just rave about a book to no end and all of its merits and how it impacted them, and it's so fantastic, and it's literally just not the book for you. If you're watching a person who is really into crazy steamy romances, controversial love interests, talk about how amazing this book was, if you're not into those same tropes that they are, then it doesn't matter. If they sing the praises from the mountaintops, that book won't be for you. So what I've done this year is I have separated my books I read from the books I watch on YouTube. I know a lot of people use BookTube to get recommendations, and that is perfectly fine if your tastes are in line with that BookTuber. Most of the people I watch, I don't have the same taste as them. I just really enjoy their videos, and I love listening to them talk about books. So I've tried to separate. I love watching them talk about books. I think it's fun to hear what their opinion is, but realizing that I would not get that same amount of enjoyment out of that book. And the last thing that I have eliminated from a reading life this year in 2024 is generalizing aspects of books to fit the entire genre. Let me explain, because I kind of said that confusingly. For example, I really enjoy Brandon Sanderson. As you can see, you can't see the whole top, but this entire section of my shelf is literally only Brandon Sanderson. And a part of me thought that because I love him, that means I love fantasy, and especially high fantasy, because a lot of what he writes is high fantasy. And so I was trying to read more and more fantasy, finding different fantasy authors that I would enjoy, and I really wasn't. And what I found this year is that I cannot take an author or parts of a book that I love and think that that represents that genre. So when I read Brandon Sanderson, I try to think, what do I actually like about his books? What is there in his book that I really love? For example, in the Stormlight Archive, I've read all of the Stormlight Archive a few times, and I could not sit down and explain the intricate world of his magic system if I tried my hardest. I'm terrible with everything. Oh my goodness. Because people, if you really sit down and listen to a fan of his discuss his world building, it's insane. And even though I read the book several times, I couldn't. But I could talk to you about the relationships of the characters. I could talk about Kaladin and his dad. I could talk about Shallan and Adolin. I could talk about Dalinar and his relationship with his sons. That's what I love. I love the family dynamics. So instead of thinking that I love fantasy, I started thinking I love family stories. I love stories that build up big worlds of relationships with people. So not necessarily the magic system, but the people in there. I mean, there's other things that I love about Brandon Sanderson. There's many, many things I love. But what I've done is, instead of just thinking I like this genre, I start thinking I like certain aspects of this book. And where can I find other aspects of that book in different genres? That one was kind of confusing, so I hope it made some sense. So those are just 5 things that I have taken out of my reading life in 2024 that have really improved my reading experience. Let me know how your 2024 is going. Are you feeling like you're in a reading rut? Do you feel like you're finding all the books you love? Let me know what your tips are, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!